What's up, everybody? Big Hurt 916. You know how we get down over here. I'm back again with my man Akiem, Hindsight Radio, intellectual, just a great conversation. And man, we got some topics to get into. So I'm gonna let Akiem kick it off, man. Akiem, what's on your mind, man? What you want to get into today?
Well, first I want to say peace to everybody. Thanks for listening or watching. I want to start off with we opened up before we started this broadcast, and that is the issues between the black man and the black woman in this country. And it's where there's a competition going on, and every turn you look at, it's like a destruction of black male masculinity. Like it's just this concerted effort to destroy the masculinity of black men. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video showing that black fathers are the most engaged fathers across the board against other groups of men, Asians, whites, Latinos, that they at the top with spending more time with their children and more engaged in their children's lives. Right? And I went to different clips, and they did a study on this, right? And I used two or three different news broadcasts, reputable ones. Oprah Winfrey did something. And then I read some articles, the actual studies. Now, that video only got 100 and something views because nobody cares about that, right? But if it's some drama like Diddy and all of that, everybody is on that, right? And here's what I've come up with. We're still on a plantation, a white supremacy plantation, and that white power structure has used the black female as the trustee for that plantation. And let me qualify what I'm saying. Go to any government building who's at the face of it, in control of all of the stuff that you need. Like if you have to put some paperwork in, who do you deal with for the most part? It ain't. You only see a angry sister sitting there with her hands on her hip. Can I help you? You know.
So well, that's for sure DMV.
Right. Oh, DMV. Any public, like post office, number one. That's number one, post office. So my point is, that's the new trustee of the plantation. And they're not gonna like me for this, but I don't care. That's the new trustee. And what I'm saying ain't strangers to people's ears. They just don't want to say it. They want to call this elephant in the room. You know, so they got on this trip. They don't need anybody. So now, you know, the society has to say, oh, you guys got more degrees. You're better than black men. And they bought it. Hook,
yeah.
Thinker. You know.
Well, I see a lot of these interviews where the women, even though some of these guys are hardworking, some of them got their own trucking businesses. Some of these guys, maybe they're in plumbing, maybe they're in auto mechanics, but they don't have so-called college degrees, but they're very successful. But they're like almost looked at as second class because when it comes to dating, well, you know, he's not this, or he don't have, what school did he go to? And it's all this bougie stuff. And I'm like, these are good dudes. These guys are hard workers,
right?
Quality men. They don't have a bunch of kids running around. And yet you're now looking at this guy. Maybe he's a hustler, do whatever, and he's a pretty whatever, but he's got probably about 10 of y'all and he's milking y'all. And he doesn't really care about any commitment. If you have a kid with him, you think the baby's going to have good hair and be pretty, but he don't care about, because he's not going to be there to support. He's not looking for a family. And so you have this dichotomy where you have this woman at one end saying that she don't want to be lonely, but then she's mad when she sees the good dude who maybe he got shitted on, but now he's dating outside his culture or race.
Because that's where he's getting the respect. That's where he's getting it. Because that's where he's getting the respect.
Yeah.
The one thing that women are not understanding, the key to getting along with a man is respect. It ain't love, it's respect. Just respect him.
Yeah.
You know? But for some reason, give me a second. This thing is. For some reason, they don't want to. That's a problem because you gotta think they're brought up not to respect black men. Society kicks black men around for anything.
Yeah.
Like the whole Diddy thing, they got him. They didn't give him any bail or anything.
Yeah.
But then there was another group of men having the same problems, had the same charges as Diddy. They gave them bail, $5 million.
Yeah, you talk about the Abercrombie. I think, yeah,
Or something like that. Yeah, they gave them bail, but they blew up the whole Diddy thing. I'm not saying he didn't do anything wrong, but these guys got bail for, and they basically was being charged with the same thing Diddy was.
Yeah.
You see, when it comes to us, no matter what we do, we getting they're gonna blow it up, and guess who helps them? We do. We talk about it. We feed it into the system, and of course, you know, I don't think Diddy's innocent by any, but he had to understand this system is not. It'll allow you to do but so much, and then it's going to take whatever you did and use you as the cover for all of the other dirt that's going on. You know, use your.
I think the one of the biggest things is the man was replaced, the father, the black male was replaced with the government. So by the government being involved, whether it be subsidies or EBT or whatever you want to call it, and you know the kid makes it, and maybe he goes to the league and he plays ball. You always see those stories highlighted. But when you have a mother and father, I don't know
You're not
how
going
many
to
times.
highlight that. No.
That's what I'm saying. When you see the guy get drafted, you don't see that guy whose dad was there playing catch with him, doing all the fatherly things, and he actually had two parents in there, because that shows structure. That shows family. And they want to always show the mom, and she's there, and she did it by herself. And it's like, come on, man. That's psychologically. All these other women are like, well, Reggie's not around, but we'll do it anyways. We don't need Reggie. And so she pushes him further away rather than letting him become a father figure in the kid's life, because that's so important. But we don't need him. You need Reggie. You need, you know.
But see, the system doesn't want that because it doesn't feed their capitalistic society.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you got, the study's already real that two parents in a home, children are more than likely not to even get involved with the penal system. Single mother homes are the number one homes, and that's across the board. They don't care what race you are, that produce the criminals, the criminal element out of those homes. Where there's no male father figure there, most likely is a high probability that child is going to have a problem with the penal system. And if it's a female, it's going to be a high probability that she's going to get pregnant as a teen and have multiple baby daddies without that father figure there. So think about it. That's perfect for this system because it keeps the prisons full and it keeps the mothers going to get the welfare from the government that continue to keep that cycle going. So they're not going to do anything to promote black families being together.
You know, another thing too is when there's a father in the role, and whether it's like sports or say a business or something, it's a lot harder for that young man or young woman to be manipulated, because you have a father now. They think twice about crossing up the structure. But if it's just a woman, a lot of times they'll work angles. And I've heard other artists say this, even in like the music industry. If you have a 2-parent household and anything possibly religious, they don't want to deal with you because they know they can't get you to do what they need you to do to sell the albums or take your career. You know what I mean? It's easier if it's a single parent, predominantly the mother, because then we can say, hey, we're just going to take her to the studio.
It's easy to manipulate her.
Yeah. Plus you can pull her away.
Right. Yeah. She's operating on emotion. Plus, if he's getting involved in anything that's with a lot of money. So the mother, these single moms trade out the actual husband or the boyfriend or whatever you want to call him for the son. The son becomes the surrogate father or husband in the home. That's how they produce him. And then all he does is perpetuate the same thing over and over and over again. So, because eventually, guess what happens to him? most of these guys that come out of these homes, they have children, and guess what? They're one big child support case. They paying thousands of dollars a month in child support.
Well, it also goes back to when you said something about the son trying to be the surrogate dad, and I can recall like when you go through like a divorce or something, and you're a young man, you thinking now I got to be the man, but you're not a man. So how can you be a man of something
No
that you
one
know
told
nothing
you how to
about?
be one.
So when you think about that, right, and that perpetuation as he gets older, he lost that ability to really get that knowledge and game where he would have, if he would have had a man throughout those years. And so now when he does this, like you said, the same cycle, it's flawed because it's repetitious of what he assumed, but it wasn't really a good model. And as we continue to do generations of that, that's why we're in a position where now, when a lot of these guys, they really never knew what it's like to be a father unless they had a father, but they're assuming because they're watching other people, whether through social media or videos or whatever, and they're trying to, but having a real father around you or somebody that like shows you things and kind of gives you logic and understanding and not operating off emotions, dealing with things in the business sense, responsibility. I just think, man, that's so important. I didn't have it to a degree, but I recognize it. So that's why I always try to talk about it, because I see a lot of young men from going through juvenile hall and the pen and not knowing how to cope with situations, what it can do to a family. And that's a conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. And then when you see these, sports broadcasts and this and that, and these women and how, in particular, they kind of critique black males, it's like, man, do you hear what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're point on with that, man.
Right. Yeah. It's a system that needs to be fed, and it have certain things in place to keep feeding it. The issue is the people that are feeding it don't know that they're being played. The black woman is being played 100% against her own self. See, the thing that always get me, and always shuts down conversations when I have these conversations, especially with women, they want to blame the man for the problems of the children because he's not around, right? This kid's not there. You're not there. This is why he's that way. But he's spending most of his time with the mother. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that a kid is learning his behavior from his surroundings. So if the father is not there, how can he be blamed for the behavior of this child? You could blame where maybe if a child is there, he'll be acting differently. Hopefully if this is a good father. But if he's spending most of his time around a woman and watching her, how she problem solves, that's what he's learning.
Yeah.
He's learning that behavior from where he is, what he's exposed to, what he's allowed to be around. And so that's where, no accountability. You'll see women, oh, I'm doing it. I'm Superwoman. I'm the, Father's Day just passed. And a lot of women are running around saying, I'm the father too. Don't want to give the man no credit, anything, right? They doing it all. But yet when the stuff is messed up, they don't want to take that credit. No. I had one woman, the black woman is God. Then I said, okay, I'm not going to argue with you about that, right? But I'm going to say, okay, you're right. You're God. Then you're the reason why all of these kids are fucked up. Now, oh, what? No, I'm not. Well, you can't call God, and then now when things are jacked up, it's not your problem now. You see how the craziness and the narcissistic behavior just so exposes itself. You calling yourself all of the great stuff. Look what I did. Look at my children. This is me. I'm doing it all. But when the kid is getting locked up and he's having problems with, he can't even go in public and even function properly as a man. Now it's someone else's fault. See, and that's the issue. They don't even know. They don't even want to accept that they're being played by a system that is only trying to profit off of their ignorance and their participation in how they want the family to be separated.
You think that's pride, ego?
I think it's pride, and because taking responsibility for your behaviors take a certain amount of maturity, right? Like, when you had your issues, I had my issues. In order for me to be a better person, I had to say, I'm really being jacked up over here. I have to admit that to myself, that I'm screwed up and I got to make a change. So you know that woman, Sharad Ali's doctor, she wrote the book, The Black Man's Guide to the Black Woman.
I haven't. I've heard of the book, but I haven't read it.
Right. She said something that made sense to me. She said most sisters operate on a 14 to 15-year-old mentality. And this is why they can't take accountability. And I said, well, that makes sense. Because when I'm dealing with my daughter when she was a teenager and I'm trying to give her accountability, she didn't want it. Every time I said something, and it'd be the truth, and she don't want to hear it. And that's basically typical relationship when you're dealing with some of these people. Like, they don't want to, they could be doing something and caught out there and know it's wrong, but you talking about it, it's a problem. And until people in general, men and women, take responsibility for how their life is turning out, nothing changes. The system makes them comfortable. Think about it. How many men's programs are there to help men get through stuff? It's hard. Can you even think of any? And if it is, it's maybe 1, 2. But they got all kind of programs for women to cope with their problems. So what is that? What kind of system is that? That's a system that coddles people and make them feel okay with their bullshit. So when you have that type of system, they can. Why should I do any better? I can go here and get somebody to sympathize with me.
It's almost like when you got somebody who maybe served, right, and they were in the military, and they come back and they're dealing with issues. Maybe now they got they're dealing with alcohol, or maybe pain pills, whatever the case may be, and somebody's judging that guy or saying he's weak. But this guy, he's literally seen stuff that the average person would have lost their mind. And he's trying to cope with that. And when you talk about like men, and I've seen it in the pen where guys break down crying, but these are guys are hardcore gangsters on the yard, and we don't have we got to wear a mask 24/7. And when you break down and you try to share that with certain, like, you got to have that trust factor, because some people will exploit that. Like somebody might say, "Oh, you're soft or you're weak because you cried about this," or blah blah blah. And a lot of times, some men need to get it out. It doesn't mean you're weak or you're soft,
it doesn't mean that. But it's treated as weak. People treat it that way, especially in relationships. I don't know if you've ever had this experience. You just share something simple and it gets thrown back in your face. You just talking, maybe it's something that happened at the job. You say, you know what? This is what's going on. You sharing it with your lady. You just opening up to her. And she turns that on you. That's why you get, because you this and that. You can't. So men, and I'm only dealing with men, black men. I don't know what other groups of men go through. We really can't expose our feelings because it's going to be used as a weapon against us. And now you got to fight that battle along with the other battles you're dealing with outside of, the public perception of you. Like, I walk a trail here in my neighborhood. Here, I live in a pretty decent neighborhood, right? A good neighborhood. And I walk this trail. It's got woods and everything, because I don't want to, I got a dog. So I take him back there. I ain't picking up poop. You know what I'm saying? He going to go in the woods and do it like everybody else, all the other animals, and do it. So whenever I walk this trail, sometimes white folks are on the trail with me. Now, guess what I got to deal with? The fear that they think I'm going to do something with them because I'm on this trail. Because I go to this trail at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just breaking day. So they get all scared. And you know what's the funny part, though? The men seem to be more scared than the women. Like, I'm walking with a chocolate lab that's non-vicious dog, just walking. And that's the typical thing that black men have to deal with. We're just minding our business, and people are reacting to us based off the color of our skin and what they watch on TV. That's not even true. Just like I started off by talking about the perception of black men that we don't take care of our children. We're not in their lives. We're not doing anything. We're the worst. But the studies say the complete opposite. But nobody cares about the truth. They just want to believe the negative stuff. And this is what we deal with.
It's I think throughout, like, and I think it's become like a survival thing for a lot of guys. That's why a lot of people, when I go places, I'm always kind of grinning, smiling a little bit to soften up,
Right.
so people aren't intimidated. Because when I go places, I've actually been in traffic, looked over and seen a lady lock her car door, and I'm in,
Right.
and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
But that's why when I go places, I actually make it a habit to say, "Hey, how you doing?" or like breaking ice, and I try to do it to the person in there who would be the most unlikely to even acknowledge or look at me in the eyes, because I make a lot of eye contact, because I was taught you talk to a person, you look at them in the eyes.
Right.
So when I go to the gym or I go out in public, like my grandma used to always say, look up, don't look down when you talk to somebody, look at them in the face.
Right.
And so these different things I've kept throughout my adulthood. And when I talk to people, I always look at them. But like you said, you can feel the fear, or you can see like certain individuals, they want to try to like peacock a little bit to show that they're not, intimidated or whatever the case may be. And I'm not here to intimidate you. I'm not here to fight you, bro. I'm just here.
Basically,
I'm just
ending your business.
That's
you don't
it.
care anything about them and what they're doing. You're just trying to exist, without all the extra stuff. But that's because because society has painted this negative image of black men. No matter where they go, it's always going to be a challenge with how people perceive them. So, but the issue we got, the extra issue, which no other man really deals with, is our own women come at us and kick us. We're already down. They just kicking us while we're down there, adding to that.
Though, I think, one of the biggest things, I think, like a lot of people in general, as far as like getting out your natural environment, your local environment, and traveling. But you've traveled a little bit. I've traveled a little bit. But I know, because growing up in a military background, a lot of the brothers I met in the military, a lot of them served in Japan, Germany, Australia, and they used to tell me stories. And so that's how I knew that if you get outside of this, because I will
have that.
No, they don't even. You go to Japan, they don't look at you like this. I had brothers in Australia that almost went AWOL because they were over there treated so good.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Because when I went to Portugal last year, spent about 2 weeks there, and I didn't get that treatment. I was walking
There's
around.
no vibe like that.
It was like the vibe was. I said, man, I can live here. Like I was ready to pack up and stay in Portugal.
Yeah.
I'm actually serious, like thinking about going there to live, but it's not. And I got another brother who lives in Spain. He was like complete different. Like it's just here in this toxic environment that the image of us is negative. And unfortunately, I can't blame it all on the system at this point. I have to blame it on the participation of our people in the ratchet behavior. You see them?
Yeah. And it's amplified through social media. So when you see that, like, you see a cruise ship, they're fighting on a cruise ship. You go over here at the graduation, they fighting at the graduation.
Right,
and
man.
I'm not saying everybody's doing it, but when they purposely stream that, and people at home are like, wow, I didn't know people acted like this. And it's not everybody. Because I always tell people,
when you put it on social media and millions of people look at that over and over, that image is stuck in your head, along with the movies that support that type of behavior, that we're like that. And then you got all that together, it creates a whole big image that everybody's like that.
Yeah.
You see? And that's where we come in. We're not holding our own people accountable for their ratchet behavior.
No, you're right.
Other groups that check their people. No, you're not going to do that. I was watching, someone sent me a video of a young lady who got pregnant. She's like 17, young. She's pregnant. They're having she just finishing high school. They're having a, what do you call, a revealing party? Where they show what the sex of the baby is. Her and the young father. This guy looks like he's 16, 17. And I'm like, it is no way we should be celebrating a teenager being pregnant. And I mean, they popped this thing where the smoke came out, it was blue as a baby. They all crying, all the mothers coming over, hugging. I mean, this is the nonsense. We're supporting these behaviors. And it was a bunch of little kids watching this. And I'm like, this is no way. Okay, she's pregnant. We support her in her pregnancy. Make sure she's okay. She delivers a healthy child. But no way we need to be throwing parties to say that this is okay for you to be pregnant now.
No.
Before you even get your life started. And this is why, at this point, we are feeding the system what they want. They started it off, pushed it on us, and we took it. Now we're drunk and intoxicated on ratchet behavior.
Well, there was a video of a kid, a teen, 15, maybe 16. He did a burglary, and the homeowner life threatened, shot and killed him. He was in his house illegally, and the mom came out and said, "Well, he didn't have to kill him. He was just trying to, get some money for clothes. How he expect him to go buy some?" And I'm thinking, to like the logic, like he's in somebody's house illegally. You're threatened. This guy's rummaging through your stuff. You're scared to death. You don't go in people's houses, and one of the consequences is you can get killed.
I think what they're going to do, if the kid is young enough, like, especially if he's a minor, they're going to start locking parents up.
Yeah.
Which I think they've done that in some states. Like, how do you justify?
Did you see the parents trying to sue the guy? Did you see the parents trying to sue those three parents? Three kids got shot trying to rob a guy, and they discharged their gun first. He discharged, killed them three. They were going to rob him, and the parents are talking about trying to sue the shooter.
I mean, is it the parents, mother and father, or what are we doing?
I didn't see. Some of them were crying. I can't see if it was single moms or whatever. But your three kids have hoods on.
It was. I bet it was some single mom stuff there.
Dude, your child's out with a mask on, with a gun, late at night, trying to rob somebody any time of day. There's a consequence to that.
Right. Like, I have 3 sons, right? And if they were in that situation where they were trying to rob somebody and then they got shot, there's no way that I could justify in my spirit that I should go sue these people. He shouldn't have had his ass in that man's house. You got your ass shot because you was trespassing and trying to burglarize and terrorize someone. And they were defending themselves.
That's right.
Right? But he didn't have to. What do you mean? Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. That, to me, they better be glad I ain't the one, like, have the power to lock people, because that statement, go arrest that person. And I'll find a law to lock them up. Because that means you have no regard for other people. All you care about is your child, no matter what their behavior is, no accountability to their behavior. But he's terrorizing people, and now when the people defend themselves, you're blaming the people? Nah, see.
Yeah, when I hear that, and I think about, like, and I tell people all the time, they're like, "Well, Herc, you're lucky, if you would have did this and did that." I said, well, I am lucky, and I'm very grateful, but I never don't take accountability for my actions. And actually, by me sharing this, God has a bigger purpose for me. Also, I would have been dead. They could have shot me in the bank. They could have shot me running across the freeway. I could have got killed, and whatever the case may be, and I wouldn't be here. But because I lived that, That's the reason I'm sharing with you. I'm not trying to say that I'm any more non-accountable. I am very accountable, but I survived. So I'm trying to save your kids.
Right. You got to make your kids accountable, or when they do things, they won't know how to relate. They're gonna have these types of reactions. Well, he shouldn't have did this, and again, that goes to ratchet hood behavior. That's how the people like in that environment think. They have no accountability. They think it's okay to steal from people because they don't have the money because they're poor. And it's in this society, it's so much you can do to put money in your pocket. You got social media. You just people are literally making money on their phones. Just like this one woman making money pretending to be a dog. So you can't tell me you can't find a way to make some money.
No, that's a cop out, Akeem. There's a lot of ways to make money, and the thing is, it's just applying yourself and not making excuses. I always say, my first business license I was 16. I had to go down to the Chamber of Commerce. Remember, you had to look in Yellow Pages, get the address, get the Thomas guide, drive down there. Then I had to try to figure out, okay, to get these T-shirts, I had to look up and call these places, get the directions, go to a warehouse, try to look at all these boxes of T-shirts. And I mean, dude, you could do all that on your phone now in like a minute. You know what I mean? You don't have to, worry about, you can get your EIN online. You can get all these things. So people that make those excuses, and I look at there was another video I was going to tell you about. This lady walks out of Target. Her daughter is pushing the cart, right? And the security's like, hey, ma'am, can I see your... Right, and she's like, well, baby got to eat. The daughter's like, well, this is mama teaching me we got to eat. She's pushing a basket of stolen shit. The security guard is following her out. She's like, why you following me? Why you following me? Then she pulls a gun out on a security person, asking for a receipt, and she continues to take all the stolen stuff, and she's got like some type of name brand sweatsuit on and whatever. I'm like, and you're showing your daughter as an accomplice to steal with you? I'm like, wow, man, this shit is crazy. And like you said, those videos, I'm not saying everybody, all the black people are stealing and robbing, but when you see stuff and it's amplified.
It's a black guy on the community. It makes the ones that are doing their thing and trying to be the best that they can.
They should be shamed. We should start a whole shaming thing.
That's the problem. We're letting that behavior get away. We're not challenging that behavior. And that's why we continue to have the problems we have in our community. Yeah, one time it was, a teen pregnancy was shamed. They like, no, we didn't.
When they sent you away, remember, they should send you to your aunties or somewhere.
That.
Yeah.
Now it's glorified. It's a badge of honor now. It's a rite of passage now. I'm like, these two people don't even have a job to take care of this kid. And you know what? There's all those people sitting there glorifying that are not going to help take care of it. They're not going to, when it comes time for the bills to be paid, eventually he's going to end up on child support because the likelihood of them two going to stay together is so low because the examples of where they come from, they come from homes where their parents are not together. So it's just crazy. But just take another route, because we could talk about the black community issues all day.
Yeah, and I don't want to, disclaimer, we're not saying everybody black, all black communities, because people always say, Big Herc, you always go in on. I'm like, the only reason I talk about certain things, because I have a lot of pride, man, in how I was brought up in the community of people I grew up around. And when I see another brother or a sister somewhere, and it's somewhere, I always try to acknowledge, I see you. Like, hey, we're not a lot of us here. I see you. So I don't hate on black people, bro. I just hate the lack of accountability and the behavior that's accepted.
Making excuses for bad behavior.
Yeah.
That's it. I love our people. But at the same time, if you want to fix something, you want to heal something, you gotta give it medicine. You gotta identify the problem and give it medicine. Point out, hey, this is a problem here. We need to deal with this. Stop playing. We're playing games. We're behind in everything when it comes to other communities. and we can't go fix other communities if our community is screwed up. We got to take care of our house first.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but what do you think about all of this wars that's breaking out right before July 4th?
Oh man, I think like this whole agenda with the divisiveness, with the dividing, they were waiting, because these guys, everybody thinks, oh my God, it just happened. They've been planning this shit out for a minute.
Oh yeah.
10, 20 years. They figured when there's the right person and the circumstances are aligned, we can act and they'll follow, and we can go ahead and take whether it's, take some land, get some resources, whatever the case may be. So people, the average person thinks they woke up today and said, oh, we're going to push a button, fire missiles. It don't work like that.
No. I think it's kind of weird or strange that everything's happening right before the July 4th weekend. We have all of these things jumping, Iran, Israel. We got the LA and all of these protests, people getting run over by cars. They sent another 4,000 troops, National Guards, to California.
But now let me counter that, because I got a friend that lives probably 10 minutes from there, and then Beverly Hills is another probably 15 miles from there. Now, over the weekend, I asked my buddy, because he worked at the Beverly Hills Concourse, and he's like, dude, the show was big, great turnout. So what they're showing you in the media is this little bubble.
It's a little bubble, okay.
It's a little bubble, man. My other friend lives like right down the street by USC, and he said he ain't seen nothing. So see what I'm saying, and how they
just taking old footage, AI, and making like people. It's
Akiem, it's one little area, and then they amplify it, and then they have it's like a little prison yard. They focus all the cameras and show this and show that, but it's only this little area downtown by the federal building.
My office, right? You can only see what's right here. You think I got this dope office?
Yeah.
I got a bunch of papers piled up over there.
Man, I'm telling you, it's the way, like you just talked about earlier, the social media and the manipulation. And they got these dummies holding on in front of cars, getting ran over. It's like, dude, you go 20 minutes from there, and it ain't nothing going on.
Wow.
It's like these guys are coming in there, and they said ads on Craigslist, make $200 a day protesting. They're passing out 60. Dude, there's ads on Craigslist in LA, anonymous ads. Call this number, you can make money, and then they'll give you the mask and they give you the whatever, and they're out there. So these are people
manufacturing.
Dude, they're not doing nothing, but they're sitting at home and looking for free money.
Right. Wow.
This is a dirty game, man. And
it's like you don't know what's real and what's fake anymore.
No. And you think like people are protesting. And so from what I read, that initial ICE raid that led to all this, they went down to the garment district. They busted like 40 people. And they were talking about some of the people that they were deporting. Dude, one of the guys had inappropriately touched a minor. Another dude he was supposed to be out of here because he had shot 2 people at a party. Another guy had previously had drug trafficking. These aren't upstanding citizens, and you and I both know, and I tell people, you have the right to protest, but do you know what you're protesting for? And if you're a felon, you go to another country, if they don't want to let you in, they want to kick you out, they can do all that. That's their right. And if you're in illegally, you're not legally there. You're there illegally. If me and you sneak into Thailand and we're hanging out and we don't have a visa,
and send us back home. But my opinion is, they're not serious if they protesting. They're not serious because if you study the history of any change in any country, it came by way of a revolution, meaning somebody picked up a gun and said, we ain't tolerating it. This country right here, this is what the Independence Day is all about. How they took up arms against the government at that time to declare their independence.
But really, there's nothing for them to even have a revolution about Akiem, because you look at it, California is a sanctuary state. They set this up. So they loaded it up. It's like loading up your arsenal, and then pushing a button, having a couple provocateurs go out there and rile everybody up, and then sending the ICE. Of course, there's going to be more ICE agents. California has more illegals than any other state. The only state probably comparable is New York, as far as illegals, because of the benefits and sanctuary. But to think that oh my God, they're taking families, bro.
That's all TV hype.
That's all, man. They're showing some of that stuff was from Palestine. They're showing babies. Why are you taking your baby down to a riot?
That only makes sense. Like, who would take a baby to a protest? Because you don't know what's going to jump off.
Come on, man.
They see, that's what I'm saying. You don't know what's real or fake. You're looking at this and you're like, okay, is this real? And then you like, that's why I really don't watch news anymore, because you can't take it seriously.
No.
Unless you're there and you can see what's going on and you can say, this is it, then you can go with that. But you can't really go with what you see on social media. Like, I was watching, it was in regards to the riots, it was this sheriff, and you see that sheriff who was talking about how if you come here and you do this.
Oh, Florida don't play. That's Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. The comedian Godfrey, right?
Yeah.
Right. He was talking about this sheriff, but in a negative way. So he got to the part where the sheriff said he would kill people if they did certain things. But he left out, in his commentary, he left out what the sheriff actually said. The sheriff said specifically that if you throw bricks at us, if you throw firebombs after, if you point a gun at you, we're going to be calling your family because we're going to kill you graveyard dead.
Akiem,
that's what he said.
Akiem, go to Dubai, go to Saudi Arabia, go to Portugal and throw a bottle at a cop.
You're getting shot. You're going to die.
I mean, do you think you could do that?
Pull that. Go pull it in China. So, see what I'm saying is, the way he had painted that picture, I like Godfrey. I'm a fan of his. But when I watched that commentary, he left out the part. He was trying to make it like, insinuate the cop was just racist. And, well, people in the comments insinuated he was racist, and that's why he did it. But the way he painted the picture of the sheriff making a statement, it was like he just wanted to kill someone. But he made it very clear. If you do any of these things that threaten our life, we're going to kill you. And I don't have a problem with that. Like, if you're throwing, bricks at people, you can hurt somebody. You can maim somebody.
He's trying to get home from work. I seen a lady that do try to get home. He had a trailer. They're beating on his car. He just kept trying to drive. You're like, oh my God, this guy's trying to get home. Why are you damaging his property? You can't do that, man, and think there's no consequence. These people are crazy, bro. That's my opinion. I'm like, if this person is going by and you just happen to get a rock chucked at your car, dude, you might have a kid. I mean, why would you do that, man?
Right. I'm like, you it's just what the point I was trying to make is, people get on social media and paint the picture the way they want you to see it.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't saw that clip, saw that whole press conference before that, I might have been one who ran with what he was saying. That's why you have to investigate. If someone is reporting on what someone else said, you need to go investigate that yourself and say whether that's right or not. You see?
A big thing. I think he's funny, but some of the stuff I've heard, it seems like everything. A lot of they paint everything as racial, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but bro, it's the same as me and you going into a bodega somewhere and a dude mad dogging us, and we all look the same. You know what I mean? So, I mean, when people keep painting, like, I hate like these comedians, like, dude, you have an opportunity and a platform to do this, but then you feed into the same stuff, and it's like it amplifies all this other stuff. What's the point?
It distracts from the real issue. Like in my lifetime, when I had run-ins with the law, the worst people I had problems with was the black cops. It wasn't the white cop. Most of them, I had one or two here and there, but for the most part, it was the brothers that were policing the neighborhood that was the worst. Treating I got the worst treatment from them. So what I'm saying is, it's not always about color. It's always it's about the situation. Like, for instance, you got these carnival crews, they showing all of these ratchet things. Is that really about race still? Is that just about the environment, these people growing up and they bringing that environment onto the boat?
Well, another thing too. I somebody made a comment to me about the right to protest. We're indigenous. I'm like, dude, do you know that? And if you talk about indigenous, you can say it all around the world. You're not special. People think like the situation here is special, but there was basically colonialism all over the world.
Yeah.
African tribes on each other, the Spaniards, the Dutch, the French.
I mean, over there to even start those. If you want to talk that, how did they even? Okay, there's something that I when I do my seminars and I bring it up. I said, well, one thing I see black folks, what we define as black African American, like to take credit for all of history's inventions, like religion, and we were this and we were that. We had all the great empire. We did this and that. So I say, okay, I agree. We did. Black people did invent a lot of stuff that they're not getting credit for. Most of the stuff that we deal with today, cell phones, GPS. We're not. Black women created that. Okay, let's go with that, right? So if we have the history of being a great people, making all these inventions, creating society, even the religious systems that we deal with come from black culture, right? So when it comes to slavery, who you think introduced it to the Europeans? They don't want to talk about the Barbary.
No, that's a deep.
They don't want to go there because before what you call the transatlantic slave trade, there was the Barbary slave trade.
Yeah, the Barbary coast. Yeah,
is very big.
Yeah.
And this is what caused the churches to have missionaries go around the country. Why? Because they were trying to get their people back, because the Barbary, the Moors were snatching people off their land and taking them other places. So they created missionaries, aka mercenaries, to go get their people.
A lot of people don't know about the Moor slave trade, though.
Because they don't. So if you want to say we the first and do everything, well, we the first who started slavery, and they took a page out of our book and turned it on us. Let's call, if you want to be real about it, you want to be truthful, But that's the part where they don't want to take accountability for. That's the part that they want to ignore.
Well, I heard somebody say that in England, and then they said, well, okay, well, let's hold accountable all the tribes that brought them to the coast, because from my understanding and what I've read, the only people who were able to really go into Africa were the Arabs that were kind of connected, and they went into. Other than that, none of the French, none of the British, they couldn't even go in there. They couldn't survive the African terrain. So they had, like you said, a route, and they would bring them to them and then pay the Africans who had captured them.
It was a business.
Yeah.
They were warring against other tribes, and the one that lost ended up going off into slavery.
Yeah.
And it's no different than the Europeans. They did it to themselves. They did it to each other.
Yeah.
Right? The Europeans, and on their side, it was more religion, Catholicism versus Protestant.
Yeah.
So in Europe, the main religion at this particular time I'm talking about was Protestant. The Irish were Catholics. So because the Protestants were in control, they treated the Irish like shit.
Yeah.
Like they were snatching their children off and saying, well, you can't get your children, you got to pay this big fine. Well, if you can't pay it, we're going to send you off to the new country, and you're going to work as a slave there if you want your children. Help develop the new country, which means where we are now.
Yeah.
And guess what? They were being identified as black, those Irish people.
They don't talk about that, though.
They don't want to say that. That's why, when people, that big thing that were going around, that Irish was saying black. There's some truth to that, some
Yeah.
real truth.
Yeah.
So, before we were identified as black, they was being identified as black.
Yeah.
People don't understand black is a political designation. It's not about color.
Well, that's where Hollywood comes into play with these movies, and they create these narratives. And so when you look at like Roots and Kunta Kinte and this and that, and they make it seem like this is everybody that came over here, came on a ship. They don't talk about the blacks, Moors who were here, who were very. Do you think that those people got out of slavery and they just came rich in 10 years? There were rich black people here a long time.
Right, and they were setting up brothels, and guess who they were using? The European white woman in these brothels. So, and the movies kind of showed you the truth, because when you went to the Western towns, they had the brothels, and the white women that would, in those brothels. So, and they were prostituting themselves. That's what the Moors were doing. They were doing that. So I say what happens is it's something in the Bible that says the first become last and the last become first. But then eventually it comes back around. That's what happened. We were on top, and then what came up must come down. But what's down will come up eventually. So we just have to.
With that being said, what do you think about like what's going on in England and Ireland and these places where now it's predominantly Muslim?
Ah, man, that's crazy. But the world is the world's largest religion is Muslim around the world.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised.
I mean, the shift though, that whole like you gotta. I mean, I tell people like look at it not from what your emotion says, but look how like okay, if you say that these Europeans control the world, why would they allow one of their predominantly cities or countries to be taken over by Pakistanians, people from the Middle East, all these different cultures, and their women to be now, they said, being exploited in certain situations. And then the same thing going on with Ireland. I mean, I'm not there, so I can't like you said, it's hard to believe the news, but
I can tell you what my experience with Christians versus Muslims, people from the Middle East.
And I'm not saying anything negative about Muslim religion. I'm just saying
I'm about to say something very positive.
Yeah.
When I used to do cable, like I used to install it, put it on the internet for people, and I would go into a Christian home. First, they cussing me out. They're very rude, not friendly. But I go into the Muslim homes. I'm talking about across cultures, meaning across like Somalians, Middle Easterns, and what countries you got? Pakistan, Iranian, Iraq, all of those places, Afghanistan. I go into their homes. They invite me in and want me to sit down and eat with them. Going to Christian home, man, how long is it going to take? And rush me out. So my experience with these people is a lot different than what they paint on TV.
Well, I would have to champion that also because, like, a lot of the brothers who taught me about the law in prison were Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, they read a lot and they were very intellectual. And so they laced me up on a lot of different things in regards to the law. And so I never had a negative experience with a Muslim. And I'm not like saying that them going into these countries is a negative thing. I'm just saying that when people say there's narratives and then you see shifting in demographics or culture and people are like, well, it's changing. Well, the world is changing. Everything is changing. We're not like people want things to be like it was in the 50s and 60s. It's not going to be like it was in the 50s and 60s. We're in a different time. And so you have to adjust with the change. And sometimes you look at things and you try to make sense of it. And if it doesn't fall into what you've been conditioned to believe, you kind of like shut down or feel adversarial. And I'm just saying that when you see things around the world, a lot of things are changing, but like this is on a clock, and whatever I see happening, whether it be here and other places, these are things that have been planned out, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Right. Yeah. So the whole narrative about Muslims, I can't say that it's with my experience and the people that come here and I've come across, I've gotten nothing but good treatment from them. And when they try to get to know you, they really trying to get to know you. They're not, some superficial, hey, how you doing? They really, hey, what's your name? And especially my name is Akiem. So once I said, hey, brother, we brothers, it gets the extras because of my name. So, that's why I never bought into what the television was saying.
Yeah, I agree. And now, another interesting topic, which I know this is right up your same alley, is what I see in going on Buku Faso over in Africa, and how that new leader has taken back and kicked the Dutch out and kicked the French out, and it's almost like a slap in the face because they were pimping them out of their uranium and all their natural resources, and they have one of the largest gold reserves, and literally without France having access to their natural resources, France is going to turn into a third world country, bro. They don't have the oil, and they were making Burkina Faso pay back their debt in the French currency, and now they're like, dude, we're done with you. We're going to have our own stuff. And then they had the guy who's the head of African affairs, the black general, try to say that the guy over in Burkina Faso was stealing from the people. And I'm like, what do you guys think?
They always try to do that because they know that narrative works here.
Yeah.
That narrative works. If you accuse a black man of doing something here, everybody will buy into it. So, of course, that they're using him to destroy another black man.
Have you kept up with any of that stuff going on over there?
Really kept up. I watched a little bit, saw clips here and there. Because it's just ridiculous.
They got like 4 countries over there coming together. I forgot the other 3, but they're like creating this union. And the guys, he went and bought I want to say a couple hundred tractors and schools, and he's doing all these things. And they tried to kill the guy 8 times. I mean, they've been trying to get him out the way.
They're gonna create a major distraction to try to take him out. So I think a lot of the stuff that's happening here is going to be related to what happens over there. You're right.
That because while you're looking over here, we can run a mission over here.
Right. They're going to try to, because the last thing they want is that independence.
Well, look what they did to Omar Gaddafi. Omar Gaddafi was setting up schools. I mean, you had free education, free medical, and then when he's talked about having a currency with the gold back, they shut it down. That was it.
Right. So, yeah. They're going to create a distraction to try to shut him down.
Yeah,
They're not going to go out. They're not going to go out lightly.
Yeah. That I mean, it's almost like what they did. Remember when they took out the guy from Haiti who was questioning this whole narrative? We don't even want to say it because you know how it is, that last narrative. And remember when he said he wasn't going along with it? They sent those 8 guys in there, and his wife was involved, and they shot him up and killed him. And now look at Haiti. Haiti, we ain't heard nothing else about it. And Haiti's in total, it's being ran by gangs.
Chaos.
Yeah.
They keep it that way because there's some precious resources that they want over there. That's how they do. They alienated Haiti from Dominican Republic. They're on the same island. They share the same landmass.
Isn't that crazy how they have that border, and one side you can go on vacation, on the other side is straight chaos?
Right. And Dominican Republic economy is not that great at all. They have a high population of young people without jobs. So
now, I read somewhere, isn't that now one was it British and one French, or was it colonized by different?
Is under the European something. I can't remember exactly how they're who's controlling that. I know they do a lot of talking about Christopher Columbus and some pyramid that it's ridiculous. I did a tour over there. I said, man, this is all manufactured information.
Oh, was it some bullshit?
Yeah, it was definitely bull. And I was like, come on.
Now, what do you think about that new discovery underneath the pyramids? That whole layers of, there's a whole nother structure down underneath it that is 300 something meters. It's just this whole that kind of now punches a hole in the narrative that they use people to pull these rocks. And how the hell they get all this stuff underground? And nobody's this. It was. I heard people talking about it, they haven't really released a lot of information, but there are some guys, archaeologists, that said these new discoveries kind of now question everything that they made up before, which was a bunch of hogwash.
Yeah, I think they always knew about it. They just letting it out because
I think so
if you
too.
watch the remember that old the Terminator, the Predator movie where Sanaa Lathan was in it, and then they found a structure under the ground and they went underground. They put some heat in the ice and they went deep underground.
Yeah.
Movie. So they already knew that stuff. They just now they can't hide, and because when I was coming up, the pyramids was for mummies.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it was a power thing. It took the sun and did something and
Yeah.
generated power. So every so often they change the narrative of what these discoveries are. Because when I was coming, it was about Egyptian mummies, and I'm like, okay,
And whenever they drop something new on us, they've known about it for 30, 40 years already. It's old.
Right. Hang on. Somebody was at my door. So they by the time we get it, and especially when it comes to technology, the military has already had it, used it, backwards engineered it. Now they give it to you because they're gonna monitor it now. So all this technology we have is old. The military has already had it and used it. Now they don't upgrade it to some new stuff. Now they give you the old stuff that they can hack into.
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen with the evolution of human communication and interaction with the whole AI movement and these AI girlfriends and boyfriends, like these dolls that are so like people literally are like already cut themselves off from society with a lot of these virtual worlds, and now with these AI relationships that these people are tricking their minds into. Where do you see the human evolution going with people and the regular relationships and interactions?
I think we're going towards how the Matrix was. They're going to use humans as batteries to keep that stuff going. Think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we headed for. Our bodies generate power, right? So if they can get people tricked into being attached to a machine where they can live in a fantasy world, instead of walking around doing things all day, they'll be in this fantasy world and use their body as a resource.
So basically a power generator for some avatar out there in the world.
Right. Yeah. That's where they're headed. Because they're really trying to reduce the population. So because the more people that are on this planet, it's harder to control. So they have to have small populations in order to control. That's why they're coming up with the 15-minute cities and stuff like that. It's all about control. Because once they come up with a 15-minute city, they're going to have a capacity limit for that. You see, it's going to be, you can't just keep having births in those cities and it be sustainable. They're going to have a capacity limit that only so many people can live in this.
And the big lie is that there's not enough food. That's some, not enough resource. That's the thing. Like they try to say, the impact on
food. If there's dirt, there's enough food.
Well,
you can grow your own food.
Well, you could grow your own food on top of it, Akiem, to try to say that the carbon footprint, it's all bullshit. When you leave your city, like people that's never driven across America, drive from California to Idaho or from Arizona to Nevada. Bro, there's a lot of land that's out there and there's a lot of space. So we're not as it's not as crowded as people think. And it's kind of crazy, like you said, because of the lack of research on a lot of people's parts, that they don't want to look into things. They just take what they hear on the surface, that they don't understand how big it is. And like you said, the narrative is about control.
Right. Absolutely. So, yeah. I'm just making sure my daughter, she's got taking driving lessons. Yeah. It's everything's about control because there's a certain group of people that have all the money and they want to keep that money, but the way they keep that money is making everyone else a consumer and having control.
You know what? You just made me think of something. A guy in prison told me one time, right? You remember the Rockefeller drug laws that came about, right?
Yeah.
In New York?
Yeah.
Okay. When you remember when that came about in the 80s? Late 80s?
That was I think that was under Clinton.
Okay. So I was talking with a Dominican guy. He was a big time baller out there. And he said that and it's funny because you said how they don't like seeing other people around them. And that's why they got, before it used to be sports cars, and then it became supercars. Now it's hypercars and mega mansions. Not even a mansion no more. You got to have a mega mansion. But he was telling me, man, when he would started balling, he would go to the same steakhouses as a lot of these Wall Street guys. He said he would have the newest Mercedes. And he said one time a guy came into one of the steakhouses, and I don't know like how real the story is, but he was telling me that the guy said, "Hey, I want this table." He's like, "Oh, somebody's there." He's like, "Who's at my table? I want my table." Whose car? And he's seen the guy, Puerto Rican dude with some brothers. They're all hanging out, and they're like, "Dude, how the hell this guy's making this kind of money? What are they?" And it was so baffling to them. They're like, "We got to shut this shit down." You had a lot of guys in New York who were like millionaires at 17, 16, 18 through the drug game, and they were making so much money that they are like, we got to curtail this. The same thing with the crack. When they seen that, because after you buy everything you never had, you start investing in wealth and assets and resources, and you start building things. And if you have enough time to get to that point, we know we can't take certain things from you. And they learned that because, like, when you go back to Cecil Rhodes and a lot of these guys, they call them scholars, that were heroin dealers. Basically, they built their wealth off of bootlegging, drugs, cocaine, the Dutch company that helped put cocaine into Coca-Cola, all these different things. And so it gets to a point where, like you said, they see things and they're like, dude, we got to shift this stuff around because the ants are moving up the hill. And if they get too close to us, they're going to see what we're doing up here. We got to knock them back down.
Yeah, they did that in the trucking business. Like, during COVID, a lot of black folks went into the trucking business. So what they did was they got together and depressed the rates. So it make it very hard to stay in that business. So a lot of people went out of business, because the rates are so ridiculously low. Like, I mean, ridiculously low.
Well, they did in California, they made you have to get that new truck.
Yeah, you have to become CARB compliant, which means you got to pay them a fee every year to say that your trucks are CARB compliant. That's what it is. It's not that you got to get a new truck. You have to pay them to prove that you're CARB compliant if you want to run in California. So I don't send trucks out there. I don't even fool with California.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Whenever I see that, I just look at it because I go to places. I'm the type of person, I like to go to places where people wouldn't think you'd be at. And I've been to some places like, where you see a lot of rich people, and when they see you there, do you notice like they'll start talking to you, and like within 2 minutes, Akiem, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like what do you do to get here? And like I never ask a person, what do you do, bro, unless you offer it. I'm not gonna. It's none of my business what you do or how you got your Ferrari. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's just interesting.
They want to know you ain't supposed to be here. How the hell you're here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a trip, man. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, that was it. I just we got to get it together. I think that I'll say this lastly. I think there's a strong possibility you might have a false flag before July 4th or on or around that date.
Yeah.
I'll be careful.
Yeah. You know what, though? And going back to what we said on the social media to the people watching is that don't buy into the hype because, like, in a lot of these places where they're showing all this stuff, it's just a small area. It's all controlled.
Yeah.
And
it's not look like the whole state of California is burning.
No.
The news need to be relevant. So they got to stay relevant. So they got to sensationalize their stories or nobody will watch it.
Yeah.
You see? So.
Yeah, you're right, man.
All right,
Well,
bro.
hey, it's always a pleasure, man. Thank you for coming on, bro. And we'll definitely have to do it again soon.
All right. Peace. Take care. All right.
Thank you.